So this concludes our crash course on Google Classroom. Thank you so much everyone for watching and coming along for the ride. I hope you've all been able to learn a lot more about Google Classroom and the features and tools that come along with it, and how you can implement it in your own classroom next year or even this year. So on the next few slides, I'm just going to include some research that supports the use of Google Classroom and the features that come along with it. So one article I found, Google Classroom, What Works and How. So in this article, the author discusses the features of Google Classroom, which we talked a lot about during this session, but it also talks about why teachers use it, how teachers can use it, barriers teachers might face when using Google Classroom, and finally, how students actually respond to the platform, which I think is really important to see how kids react to it. Another article I found, analysis of factors affecting the use of Google Classroom to support lectures. So this is an article that is written about higher education, so it's based on a college classroom, but I did think it was important if there are any college teachers or high school teachers that are watching this. This article can discuss how the use of Google Classroom can actually support a lecture type teaching model. So if you do that in your high school or college classroom, this can really help to show you how using Google Classroom can support your lectures. It also talks about how the researchers found the perceived usefulness of the site and the perceived ease of use. So how useful it is for students and teachers and how easy it is to use. The third article I found, Google Classroom for librarians. So I did add this because there might be some librarians in the audience that want to learn how they can use Google Classroom to support their instruction. But this article is actually a great resource for both librarians and just any teacher that teaches literacy, which is most of us anyway, because literacy kind of wiggles its way into every subject area. But it really delves more into the different features of Google Classroom and how a variety of teachers can use it. So it has a lot of literacy and writing resources that teachers can actually use, which is great. So I decided to add that along. We also have Google Docs as a tool for collaborative writing in the middle school classroom. Now I included this because although Google Docs is not necessarily the same thing as Google Classroom, I consider it as a pairing tool that goes along great with Google Classroom. So a lot of the assignments that I personally assign in my own middle school class are Google Docs. So for instance, the activity that I had you all do, the Age of Exploration web quest, that was on Google Docs. So a lot of the assignments that you add can be on Google Docs where students are able to collaborate a lot more with one another, where you can give them more detailed feedback and things like that. So I did want to include that as part of my research and how maybe you can pair both of these tools together to create better instruction. So this article that I've included, it discusses how Google Docs can be used to encourage collaboration with middle school students. And it not only encourages collaboration with regular ed students, but also special ed students and students who come from different linguistic backgrounds, which is really important because kids who do have different language backgrounds might not always be comfortable participating in whole class discussions or even in small groups. So giving them this digital platform where they can interact with one another can help them feel more confident, and it can really promote their active participation a lot more. So I thought this was an important article to add to show how you can use this digital platform to improve collaboration with your kids. And finally, the last article I included was Flipped Classroom Instruction for Inclusive Learning. So for those of you who don't know, Flipped Classroom is just when teachers often decide to, instead of lecturing students or providing them with direct instruction during class time and then for homework providing them the practice, instead it involves giving students a narrated video version of a lecture or of a certain lesson, and it provides that to them for homework along with some sort of interactive element that they can complete, and then the next day teachers can provide differentiated instruction based on whichever answers they got to the questions or to the interactive activity that they gave for homework along with the video. And in class, there's then time for students to actually get down and dirty with the material, and they're able to actually participate and they're able to actually complete practice assignments that go along with what they had learned the night before. So this article talks about the benefit of a flipped classroom model and how it can promote a more inclusive learning environment because, like I said, it gives teachers more time to be able to provide an entire class period where they can focus on differentiating instruction for students. I'm including this in my Google Classroom crash course resources because Google Classroom can be a really great tool to use if you're doing a flipped classroom lesson. So for example, if you decide to do this sort of lesson, you might attach a flipped classroom video or a narrated lesson onto your Google Classroom along with maybe a question or a discussion post or something, some sort of interactive element that the kids would have to respond to, which you can then look at, and then that can help drive your instruction the next day and figure out what each kid needs to help them better understand what you taught in that video. So Google Classroom can be a really great tool to use if you do decide to do a flipped classroom style instruction. So that concludes our crash course on Google Classroom. There is plenty of research out there, so if you'd like to research more, please do. And if you have any great resources that you think I should know about that maybe I didn't include, that would be great. Please send them my way. If you have any questions, I will have all of these different parts to our crash course on my website, bishopsteachertools.weebly.com. So please feel free to head there and look over at my different parts of this session if you'd like to check it out once more. And if you have any questions that are related to Google Classroom or suggestions for next time, please feel free to either email me or post it on the Google Classroom, which I will continue to have access to. Thank you all for joining in on this crash course, and I hope you enjoy your experience with Google Classroom.